I'm Rob Shields, and this is Peace Talks, the podcast that covers everything to do with competitive jigsaw puzzling. Andrew Bradburn placed third in the U.S. Nationals competition in 1983. In this episode, he talks about what that experience was like, how he was present as the U.S. Jigsaw Puzzle Association began to come together, and what he's been up to since. Andrew Bradburn, welcome to Peace Talks.
Thank you. Good to be here.
This has been a long time in coming. I think I first talked to you about this in January.
Yes, in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this pretty much the entire time. I think we're going to have a lot of fun things to talk about. But as we usually do, let's begin at the beginning. What is your earliest jigsaw puzzle memory?
I remember those puzzles of the United States, where each state was a piece, and maybe New England was a piece or two. And I especially remember New Mexico with the little extra bit sticking down. And I guess, they were maybe 2 or 3 inches around the western states. That's, I think, the earliest puzzle I can remember.
You remember doing those puzzles?
Oh, yes. I think it was like black. It was like rectangle, and it was like cardboard, and you stuck them in the border of the U.S. And the western states were fun because they were big. And the ones, east of the Mississippi were all smaller. And
do you recall roughly how old you were?
Well, my mom says I did my first puzzle at 1.5, so I wouldn't remember that. I think my oldest memories are from about age 4, so I might have done even more basic puzzles than that without remembering them.
Did that stick with your mom, or did she just know that you got into puzzles later and remembered that at some point?
Oh, yeah, both my parents. I think the word got out to all the relatives pretty quickly because it's pretty much what I got for birthdays and Christmases for the next 15 years. Oh, yeah. I mean, how many of us who are puzzlers know the, picking up a box and shaking it to tell what's inside?
So you were a puzzler, a jigsaw puzzler specifically, pretty much from the get-go.
Yep. That led to other puzzles too, mechanical puzzles, crossword puzzles, logic puzzles.
You seem to be a broad spectrum of puzzler. Jigsaw puzzling is not the only puzzling that you flirt with.
No, I should say that there's another puzzle organization called the National Puzzlers League, which is over 100 years old, that Will Shortz is part of, and that's the crossword editor for the New York Times. And actually, everybody in that organization has a nom. Mine is jigsaw. Is that the kind of puzzle that's my favorite?
When you were a kid, I assume that since everybody was giving you puzzles as presents, you were doing them a fair amount.
Yes, I did have my favorites, and I would redo them several times. And so much so that the boxes would wear out, and they would end up in lunch bags.
Is that right? What were some of your favorites?
I remember an octagonal puzzle I had. I don't remember the make of a painting by Bruegel called The Fall of Icarus, or Landscape with the Fall of Icarus. And I always wondered why it was called that, because it was a guy plowing a field. But I guess way in the background was like the body of the guy in the water. It's like a sideline or something. But I had a lot of fine art puzzles like that. And my all-time favorite was a Springbok circular puzzle of 2001: A Space Odyssey.
What was it a picture of?
It was a circle, and it had the Discovery in the center. And then there was like 6... It was like lines, white lines going off kind of in a wheel pattern to divide the circle up into 6 segments. And they were all sequences from the movie. The guy's on the moon, or the guy running around the centripetal, or the monolith or something.
Got it. I assume that you weren't puzzling particularly intentionally fast. It sounds like you were puzzling because you really enjoyed it. And maybe you were even going slower to keep the puzzle going.
I think it's just something I had a knack for. I enjoyed puzzling fast, but I never raced. My sisters and I also puzzled, so we do them together. And I do remember one time being at a friend's house, and her sister was rejoicing at having put a piece in, and I thought, what's the big deal? But I guess everybody has different levels of ability, and I was gifted in that, I suppose. So I got used to being able to do like a 500-piece puzzle in one sitting.
At some point, you hear about a puzzle competition. How did that come about? Like, this is in the age before any kind of internet media, so it would have had to come to you in some sort of challenging way.
It did. My mom used to get several magazines, Time and the New Yorker and Ms. And one bored Saturday, I was just flipping through Ms. magazine of all things, and there was a little article about the first annual National Jigsaw Puzzle Championship. And I guess because both the solo winner and the pairs winners were all women, young women, under 20, I believe. That's when I discovered it. And I don't remember if they had an entry slip in the magazine or I wrote to Springbok or Hallmark for one. But I do remember distinctly the woman that won the first one. I found out later her name was Barbara Armstrong, was quoted as saying, "My mother told me I'd never get anywhere playing puzzles." And I thought, playing puzzles? I do puzzles. I know some people work puzzles, but I've never heard of playing puzzles. So that was interesting. I've always been curious as to what verb people attach to the activity of putting together jigsaws. I think I've heard about 5 or 6 of them over the years.
What's the most peculiar?
Play, I think. But there's work, make, do, solve, puzzle as a verb.
Right.
There's probably a couple others.
You saw this article in the magazine talking about a competition that hadn't happened yet. So this would have been the 1982 competition put on by Hallmark.
Right. So I probably read it in September or October of 82. In those days, you had to fill out a form and be accepted or not. Actually, I'd forgotten this, but they gave everybody a packet, and I went through my packet from 1983, and there's my acceptance letter.
You have an acceptance letter?
Yes, and they got the year wrong. They said, "You have been accepted to participate in the 1982 National Jigsaw Puzzle Championships."
Which it was over by then?
Right.
So did you have to write a letter? Like, did you have to convince them in some way?
I think I had to fill out an entry form. There's another letter I have here. It says, "Dear Puzzler, enclosed is an entry form for the 1983 National Jigsaw Puzzle Championships. The same forms will be available in most Hallmark card stores by May 1st, 1983. So I guess that was one place. Hallmark, card stores would also have jigsaw puzzles in the back, Springbok puzzles.
Because Hallmark owned Springbok at that time?
At that time, yes. I don't think they had them inside boxes of Springboks, because if that were the case, I probably would have discovered it in time to go to the first one.
Yeah, I did notice that. I think by 1984, they were putting forms inside boxes, but I didn't notice anything prior to that.
There was at the time a newsletter I discovered because they put a free copy of the July 1983 issue in our welcome packet. It was called the Puzzle Precedent. And the woman who put it out had an interesting name of Shelley Shelton Melton. But in that issue, it does say, besides the Ms. Magazine article, that Games Magazine had a large ad announcing the event in Athens, Ohio. So that makes sense that Games Magazine would have advertised it.
Sure. Now, this was in Ohio. Where were you at the time?
I was in Chicago, so I was a day's drive away. I borrowed my parents' one of their cars to drive down there. It was Saturday and Sunday weekend in August of 1983. Because it's a college town, Ohio University is there, and the students are all away. I think I stayed in a dorm room when I was there.
How old were you at this time?
I was 21. I had just finished my junior year in college in Portland, Oregon.
I know the place.
Yes, and it's lucky I was in Chicago because I could drive there. I didn't have to fly or drive 3 days to get there.
What was your first thought when you saw something related to puzzle competitions for Jigsaw?
Honestly, it was finally, yeah, because I think when I was 21, but when I was about 14 or 13, I remember doing a puzzle at home and thinking, God, if there was ever a contest for doing puzzles fast, I bet you I could win that. And it's probably the only time I said that about anything, like any kind of confidence that I could be the best at something. And little did I know there was people out there much faster than me. Not a whole lot, but one in particular. So
you said you felt like you could probably win. What gave you that kind of confidence?
Well, I was the fastest in my circle. I was faster than my sisters. Any friends I had who did them, I was way faster. I don't think any of my relatives really
Hmm.
did them. I'd never met anybody else. Granted, my circle was pretty small.
At that time, were you actually pushing to go fast? How did you even think about fast as a thing you would do with jigsaw puzzles?
No, actually, I didn't time myself until I had signed up. In fact, I never poured the pieces out. I've always been a sifter.
Hmm.
So I just knew that once I get the bulk of the pieces out, I was able to look for a space or see a space and find something that fit there. Or if I saw a piece with a certain texture on it, I could remember exactly where it was like 10 minutes later and go and
Oh,
pick
wow.
it up.
Hmm.
So I was aware that those abilities had kind of started to happen. I'm not sure. I think much later I learned that jigsaw puzzling works both sides of the brain, both the right and the left.
Interesting.
Um, well, the character recognition or the pattern recognition, I think, is a right brain attribute. But strategizing, finding edge pieces, looking at details are probably a left brain attribute.
Fascinating.
Well, your friend EB Karen could probably tell you a lot more than that
It's true.
about
She
that.
probably could. So you got the letter back. Were you excited by that, or were you like, did you suddenly have to plan?
Oh yeah, not only I mean I had to arrange with my parents to get the car and to drive out there and but I had to start practicing. I said I don't want to go blind and I remember I had Ravensburger 500s.
Hmm.
I remember I had one of Hamburg and it's the first one I ever did where I actually started the stopwatch and I flipped the box over and I turned everything. I guess it just seemed natural that you'd want to flip everything over and separate the edges. That just seemed like the way to go right from the get-go. And so I did a couple of Ravensburger, and I know I must have done some Springboks because we all knew they were going to be Springbok puzzles, and they're,
Hmm.
a very unique random cut. So I would think if you didn't grow up doing them, it would be a very hard learning curve to suddenly speed puzzle Springboks. But I grew up doing Springboks, so I was used to the little eye-shaped pieces and the edge pieces that don't always interlock.
And aren't they like, at least at the time, like thicker? I read some sort of contemporaneous stories about like having to push really hard to get the pieces in place.
The good ones fit just very, very smoothly. But yeah, generally they were really good puzzles to lift because they stuck together very well. And they also took a lot more time to take apart. Although nowadays, what's left of the company, it's a different ownership. They're much stiffer even.
Hmm.
Um, I bought some on eBay, some from my era that I'd long lost, and they're just so nice. They're very high quality. The backing is beautiful. Yeah, they are a bit thicker than most puzzles. But usually the cut is very nice and they just kind of go in very easily and they stick very nicely. And there's never a false fit.
Did you know anybody else who was going to go to this competition?
No, no, if I did, I might have carpooled with them.
So, but it occurred to you that you should practice. And so you timed yourself. Do you recall, if not the time, at least how you felt about that time?
I didn't have anything to gauge it by. Well, actually, I suppose I did. No, I didn't because they didn't list any times. I don't think they listed any times in the article. I don't remember. If they did, I think it's the solo, actually, if I look at my stats here, the solo championship, the first year, 1982, the winning time was 3 hours and 35 minutes. If I saw that time, I would have been ecstatic thinking, oh, I've got this in the bag because I knew I could do it in less than that.
That particular puzzle is interesting. It's a crayon puzzle, and it does look challenging to approach. But 3 hours and 35 minutes is a long stretch for, at least in the modern era, for any puzzle.
You know the whole story about the 4 minute mile. It's thought to be impossible, and then once it was broken, a whole bunch of people broke it. I think once people started to realize that you could do even Springbok puzzles in closer to an hour, hour and a half, probably more people could do it.
I am on record as saying that I believe in the next 10 years, somebody will be under 20 minutes on a new puzzle in competition. And I firmly believe it will be something like that. That people don't
Oh, I
believe you
think
could
you're
do it
right.
until you could do it.
Well, especially if it has like a bunch of 6 or 7 big, large, colorful things that you can just get 30 pieces for this one, 30 pieces for this one,
Yeah.
and just go boom, 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 boom. Well, yeah, I mean, gosh, what did Victor do? 21 something, 22?
Yeah, on the was it the New York postcard? So going into this, you said you started practicing. You immediately did a different technique. Your brain sort of kicked into a, all right, if I'm going to go fast, let's see how do we actually go fast as opposed to sort of going through it. Were there other techniques that you developed as you were practicing for this competition?
I didn't realize it, but I think I was developing some bad habits. Pretty much all I did was I'd separate the edge, do the edge first, and then separate things by color first. It's
Mm-hmm.
really hard to separate by shape, piece shape in Springbok because there is no general shape except for these little, I call them letter I's, these tiny little
Flats on
pieces.
two side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're like tiny fillers, and they often are mistaken for edges. Sometimes they are edges, but often they're not. But I didn't realize until after I was watched, by people in the tournament that I was a one-handed right-hand only puzzler. So I probably just reinforced that by going fast at that. I don't know if I'd started training on both hands if I would have even been able to do it, but that's something that became apparent during competition that two hands putting in is better than one.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about that here in a minute, but I want to sort of sneak up on it. I want to relish all of this sort of. You were there at a moment where there wasn't really precedent. There was one prior year of this. I found an article that said something about like this is the first time a puzzle championship had happened in almost a decade, and I never found any indicator that there were any competitions in the 70s. So you're sort of at a moment in the relatively modern era of puzzling where there wasn't a lot to know. It was all new discovery.
Yeah, and I don't know, maybe my friends, the people in Minnesota can correct me, but I don't even think the St. Paul event had started yet. By 83, I'm not sure if it's that old or not.
You were developing some bad habits, and you found a couple of things that obviously made sense right away. You timed one of your puzzles; it seemed reasonable. So you're
Mm-hmm.
going into this competition feeling good.
Very. I felt like I was going to win, which is a very unusual experience for me.
Is that right? So you're not generally a competitive person, or
I've not historically been the most confident person about things.
mm-hmm.
Um, but I felt I had a lifetime of experience in being confident at this particular activity.
Is there another activity that somebody could have picked that you would have felt more confident about at this time?
I don't know. I mean, I was good at puzzles, so maybe like doing crossword puzzles. I'd never tried doing those for speed.
Tell us how that event unfolds.
Well, first of all, as Hallmark was putting this on, Hallmark was a pretty company with a lot of money, and so there was a lot of things they were able to do with the money behind it. Besides these big packets they put together, they had some parties set up. They even did this. It was incredible. I had forgotten this until I'd read this in an article about the event. But on the day of the final, they brought in the all the puzzles. There was only 15 people in the finals, so 15 puzzles needed. They parachuted them in. There's three parachuters with like a knapsack with like some puzzles on their back, and they landed like on the lawn outside the dairy barn in Athens, Ohio. And I mean, that was a major big deal. It's
Wow.
like, like opening the Super Bowl or something. Yeah.
It really
Parachuting
is.
the brand new unseen puzzles for competition they had to go to an airport and take off and jump on. Oh.
It must have made it seem like a momentous occasion. Like so they're
It
going all
did.
out for this.
Well, it was kind of dog days in summer in Athens, but the whole week was devoted to puzzles, like Puzzle Week in Athens. And, on the lampposts, they had the big banners up saying Puzzle Week. And according to my notes here from my handouts, there was like exhibits of puzzle art all week, even though the
Mm-hmm.
event didn't start until Saturday. I think I got there Friday. So yeah, they went all out. I mean, part of the things in this packet are they provided a list of babysitters, local babysitters. If you needed, if you were local and you needed to like be away from your kids for all weekend so you could puzzle, you're covered. And then they also supplied a list of media, press roundup. And I doubt they sent anything from the first year, but Sports Illustrated sent a young, up-and-coming Chicago reporter named Rick Thielander, who, if anybody followed Sports Illustrated for the next 40 years, became one of their top writers. And ABC News Chicago, a bunch of news places from West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, all around the region. So there's a lot of press. There's just a lot of support from the whole region for this. So it did feel like a big deal.
How many people were there to compete?
They had room for 500 solo and 250 teams. They didn't quite reach that. I think it was about 264 solo in the semifinals and by my count, 154 pairs. I should clarify, there's no teams of 4. It was just pairs of 2 or solo, and you were not allowed to do both. It was one or the other. And because of the venue, it was a very dramatic shift between the semifinal and the final. The semifinal was held on the basketball court of Ohio University. So they had 50 tables, and these tables were 5 feet by 8 feet, covered with beautiful white surface, and they were subdivided for pairs into 2 sides and for solos into 4 quadrants. So I just found the actual specs also in this notebook of mine. But so the space we had to do a 500-piece puzzle was 2.5 feet by 4 feet, which represented exactly 1/4 of this large table. And there were 50 to 70 of these tables on the however many it took to get. Actually, they were prepared for 500. So what is that? 500 divided by 4, 125 of these tables on the basketball court.
If it was on a basketball court, were there like bleachers? Were there people watching?
Yeah, people, well, they had to watch from the stands, so you could see a lot. You could see everybody from above, but you were kind of far away from anybody in particular. The only people that were allowed to walk in between were photographers and judges.
And this event had prize money.
It did. $1,000 for first, $750 for second, and $500 for third.
That is crazy.
Yeah, in 1983 dollars, that's pretty good. In my welcome note, it also had a little thing on the bottom, which I found a little interesting. It said, 1 or more winners will be flown to New York City afterwards to appear on CBS Morning on Monday, the following Monday.
Oh, wow.
And my first thought when I saw that was, I want to finish second.
You didn't want to be one of the winners that had to go on a TV show?
I felt like I could sacrifice $250 to avoid having to fly to New York to be on TV for 1 minute and then fly back, because I still had to drive back to Chicago.
Sure, sure.
It just wasn't something that I wanted to do, and I wasn't really that comfortable in front of the camera. So that was weird. It's like I went to a thing I thought I was winning, and one of the first thoughts I have when I get there is I want to finish second. It's strange, a strange energetic shift, but that was the first thought that hit me when I read that.
There was substantial prize money. There were 264 people, 262, 200 something people there. They talked like they treated it with a lot of care in terms of making sure the puzzle image was new, making sure the puzzle image wasn't known. I saw something that even said that the piece cut might have been changed out, like they were changing piece cuts out.
That could be. As far as the cover, I'm not sure, because I do remember they had a contest, a photo contest, and the winner was going to be next year's final puzzle. Because I saw the 1984 finals puzzle as a picture among like 50 other pictures in one of the side rooms. So that was part of the thing, was they had a picture contest to help design, the cover. And, Springbok is noted for either photographic or fine art covers. And a lot of their photos are often like collage type things, or as you talked about the crayon one, just a whole bunch of crayons next to each other. I'm really glad I didn't get that one.
You may have been closer to 3 hours. I personally, I know Karen Puzzles has that puzzle. I want her to do it for the data. I want her to do that puzzle cool, so that we could all know how fast, like in a modern, she's a good puzzler. How fast does a modern good puzzler do that puzzle that took the winner 3 hours and 35 minutes? So everybody go comment to Karen Puzzles that she needs to do that puzzle for the data.
Or maybe we could get 2 copies and I could go head to head because I have more experience with Springbuck, but she's way faster than me.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see that. It's the Shades of Childhood puzzle if you're going to nag her about the right thing. So you come into the venue. What was your perception of the whole event?
I think it's probably the first time I was ever on a basketball court of that size. I mean, it's a large university. And we all went in knowing that of all those 200 plus people, only the top 15 were going to advance to the finals. And the only reason for that is because the venue would switch to this arts center called the Dairy Barn, which is an old dairy barn. And they could only fit 15 of those long folding tables because they switched to the regular long folding tables, I think, that we use in nationals for the final. So I was confident I could be amongst the top 15.
All right. So you were coming in, you weren't nervous per se. You felt like this was a doable thing, despite the fact that there were a couple hundred people around you.
Yeah, I was excited.
Do you remember at all how that day unfolded? Like once you went in there, do you remember any of the details of like how the puzzle came out?
I remember, I think it was upside down. I don't even think it was in a bag.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember if we had to take the plastic off or not. I mean, I do have the rules here. I think you'll get a kick out of one of them if I can find it. Here's the competition rules. The first one is a sign of the times. The very first competition rule for the 1983 National Jigsaw Puzzle Championship is no smoking.
Less of an issue now.
The one difference is their way of finishing was you had to put your hands up and yell jigsaw. In a way, it's good because if somebody's on the other side of the room, you knew it wasn't this quiet finish. Somebody had to say jigsaw to prove that they'd finished. And that meant that all the pieces were in and they were ready to have their time taken.
Yeah, I actually love that. That would be a fun thing to revitalize.
Well, I don't know. In a smaller room with 100 people, it might get a bit loud. And
So there was just 2 rounds, right? You said semifinals,
just 2 rounds.
But there
semifinal
were no, like,
Saturday, final Sunday. Well, there was. I don't think this was the first year, but starting in 1983, they added a side thing, which is a really nice thing. It was called sprints.
Mm-hmm.
And like nationals a few years ago had puzzle, chess, head to head. This was head to head. I think it was 128. They had room for 128. And it was a random draw. And I looked at the rules of that. And apparently there was 2 different brackets, an A bracket and a B bracket. And they did most of the first and second and third rounds on Saturday. I ended up in the same bracket as Joel and Bifus, who won the championship. And so we ended up going head to head much sooner than I would have liked. But I can get to that a little later. But these are 75-piece puzzles. And so they're very quick. And so you could have this like seeding, move up to the next one, for that. And I think they kept that going in following years. So it was like a secondary thing that was added, which was really cool.
The semifinals happened first and then they did the sprints, or the sprints going on first? I'm wondering if you got a chance to size up the competition.
No, I didn't really. After the semifinals were done, the finalists, the 15 people, were brought in one by one as they finished, and they were chatting. They were asked questions by like local cable access channel or something. And so that was the only time when we actually kind of got together and got to see each other and meet each other for the first time.
Yeah, you're sort of burying the lead there, but just to be real clear about it, you made it into the top 15.
I did make it into the top 15.
And I assume felt vindicated.
Yes, actually, I should tell you how it went down. So I'm getting nearly done. I have 20 pieces left, and I haven't heard jigsaw yet. And so about the time I was at 30 or 40 pieces left, all of a sudden I started to notice some photographers around me, and I'm thinking, I must be doing pretty good. And I get closer and I still don't hear it. And I think, I'm going to win. And then I don't know, it's 15 pieces left. Somebody on the way other side yells jigsaw. And I thought, oh, darn, didn't win. But I finished second. And 2 minutes later. And I found out later, they said, we didn't know which of you was going to finish first. We had a bunch of camera people over here. We had a bunch of camera people over here. And this wasn't TV. This was just still cameras.
Right.
And so I guess it provided some excitement for the viewers as well, or the people in the house, because we were on total opposite sides of the floor.
Well, and better than the prior year, where at least in the finals, the difference was more than 25 minutes between first place and second place.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
year round, it was, as you said, it was about 2 minutes between first place and second place. And especially if you've never seen a puzzle competition, if the people are far apart, that could make for some good watching.
Yeah, let's see. I gotta find my year here. I believe the first, after us two, then I think three, four, and five were not too far apart after that.
I read something peculiar. So there were 260 odd people competing. They were going to take the top 15 on to the next round. The top 15 finished, and then the contest was basically stopped.
Yeah, I believe so. I don't believe you got to record anything. I don't think they kept any data beyond the top 15. That's a shame.
My understanding is that it moved to a puzzle count, but time stopped. Do you happen to know if, because I'm thinking about like the prior year, the competition ran for 3 hours and just to get to first place, and then 4 hours to get to second place. Was there a time limit on this?
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, according to my stats here, 15th place came in at 2 hours, 1 minute, 56 seconds. First place in the semifinals was Joellen Beitfuss at 1 hour, 15:47, and I was 1:17:42. So 15th place was only 43 minutes after me.
So people who were conditioned by the prior year must have been just astounded by what happened when you guys came along.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a huge, huge leap, and it probably wasn't as big a leap the next years after that.
Do you think that the puzzle was substantially different, or it was just the word had gotten around to enough people who were actually fairly good at puzzling that leap was really a change in capability?
I think a bit of both. I'm looking at the picture. Both the semifinal and final puzzles of my year are generally easier puzzles than the two from the previous year. The first semifinal puzzle in 82 is a pizza, which, has some easy parts to it, like the tablecloth, but a lot of the topping looks the same all over. And then the crayon puzzle is busy, basically, lots of small crayons and colors. Whereas this one, my puzzle was called Rush Hour and featured an overhead shot of decorative koi. And so they're, pretty large fish. And so each one takes up 15, 20 pieces. And then the finals puzzle was flowers, colorful. So there was a lot more color and texture, a larger proportion, I think. So that was a big difference.
So second place in the semis, they take the top 15, they parade you through the cable access interviews. Then what?
In the afternoon, they did the pairs. So I watched some of that. And I think there might have been also, I had some sprints to do somewhere in there. I mean, they gave you a schedule.
Any idea why they didn't allow people to do both pairs and individuals?
No, I don't. Maybe they thought it'd be too taxing on them. I don't know.
At this time, you're 21, and Joellen, who won the initial heat and would go on to win, spoiler alert, was also right around that age, 21-ish. So it is not new that competitive jigsaw puzzling favors the younger player.
No, I think it's pretty standard. Just like, sports, baseball players in their early 20s are generally better, faster, stronger than ones in 38.
I've always been asked, like, is it a bunch of little old ladies who do competitive jigsaw puzzling? And I'm like, no, it's usually a bunch of young ladies. And it seems like ever that was the case.
Let's see. In the top 15, I think there was only 3 guys. Notable that all 3 of us are still active after 40 years. Myself, Mike Helland, and Larry Blank. Yeah, there's about 4 or 5 of us that were back there in Ohio that are still active currently on the national scene that I know of. I hope more of them come out of the woodwork.
Yeah, that's crazy that you guys are all still active.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I was only there 1 year, and if we were able to get like all of us on one show together, Larry Blank and Mike Helland and Mary Carty and Kim Kenny, other than Kim went just once the last year, 1990, but Larry and Mary and Mike all went 4, 5, 6 times each, and so they would have a lot more to talk about other years and other things that I know nothing about. For instance, I do know that a woman who first came probably at age 13 in 1985
Mm-hmm.
and finished, I don't know, 8th or something. Won 3 years in a row. I think the first year she won, her name was Donna Klett. I never met her, but I think she was 14 when she won in 1986.
Well, you sent me a newspaper clipping, a photo that included, I think you said an 8-year-old boy in an article.
Oh, yeah. I should tell you that I'm a big sports fan. And in 1983, the Chicago White Sox were in first place or near first place. And the following morning, Sunday, before the final, I was having breakfast and I went to buy the Sunday newspaper, the local Athens newspaper, to check on the box scores to see if the White Sox were moved into first. And lo and behold, there's 2 pictures on the front page. One is this 8-year-old boy who took part, and then there's my picture on the front page of the Sunday paper. I thought, oh, there's my 15 minutes of fame, come and gone. Yes, that was quite surprised.
And this was the Sunday of the competition?
Yeah, it was a Sunday morning. It was pictures from the semifinals the day before.
I was going to say the semifinals the finals hadn't even happened yet. Already you're famous.
Well, I guess this was the second year running, so I guess this was a big deal for 1 week in Athens, Ohio.
I suppose that's true. So then on Sunday are the finals. Do you have any memories of the finals day?
Well, it was much more intimate. The venue is what you imagine, like an emptied out barn with a nice solid floor, and the tables are all lengthwise, one. So I think I was somewhere in the middle, but they had the ropes are like very close to either end of the table. So people could get really close because we're just inside this roped area and there's only 15 people at 15 tables. Everybody else is all the way around cameras.
But there's places for spectators. Spectators.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Much nicer to see. You must see much more up close in the finals, coming down from 250.
Did you feel like an exhibit yourself?
I was just hoping that I got a puzzle I liked and didn't get stuck anywhere. I did well. I just felt like this particular puzzle was just slightly harder. I guess the texture of flowers wasn't as easy for me as the texture of fish.
Mm-hmm.
And I finished third. I was actually fast. Let's see. I was a minute faster than my time on the other puzzle, but it felt slower. But the woman, another young woman, a college student named Terry, who finished third in the semifinals, beat me by a couple of minutes to take second, and I dropped to third. But the same top 3 in the semifinals were the same top 3 in the finals. I just switched places with Terry, and Joellen won. She got sub 1 hour. She did 59 minutes, which was definitely eye-raising, considering that the previous winning time was 3.5 hours.
Yeah. What characterized her playing style that she was so much faster?
Well, I heard from spectators that she used both hands. She was ambidextrous, and not just picking up, but actually placing. So she could pick up left place, pick up right place. And it's talked about in this article. She was interviewed, and they're featured in an article a month later in Sports Illustrated. And she says, she didn't really realize she was doing that, but I guess she just started doing that naturally. And some people came over and said, you would have done much better if you used your left hand. And I said, I didn't realize I was only using one hand. I guess I didn't have any, I've never taped myself. I don't even think, it was probably very expensive at the time to have a video camera.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I learned that, even though I was fast, that there was room for improvement. But I didn't feel bad. I won $500 for doing a jigsaw puzzle, something I'd done my whole life, and had a blast there and met some new people. And it was a really fun time.
Was that basically the end, and back home you went?
I wanted to watch the show the next day, so I didn't drive all the way home. I just drove as far as Columbus, and I stayed at a motel in Columbus, Ohio. And then the next morning, before I checked out, I watched the show, and there she was. But she was on CBS Morning with Bill Curtis, I think, at the time. He now does the voice. He now does the Wait, Don't Tell Me intros on Saturday on NPR. And she was on also with the Crossword Puzzle champion.
Oh.
Which I was disappointed by. And he was doing all the talking. and they ran out, like the segment was almost out. And like Bill Curtis said, "Oh, we're almost out of time. Quick, Joanne, give us like one tip for speed puzzling fast." And she said, "Do the edge first." And I thought, she got flown to New York just to say that.
So that validated your feelings.
It did validate my feelings. I felt really bad for her that she just got like 20 seconds of television time to say something. I think maybe they thought people viewing could be much more identify with doing crossword puzzles than doing jigsaw puzzles. I don't know. I think the number of people who do crosswords at any time in their day or life is probably much bigger than people who do jigsaw puzzles. But yeah, so I never saw her again. And I do have to say, a lot of people listening probably saw the news that the USAJPA put out last month that unfortunately Jo Ellen Lifeless Lyons died early September. And I guess she had been fighting disease for several years. I'd heard rumors that she and her daughter were signed up at one time to come to nationals one year, but that they had to cancel because of health reasons. I was saddened that I never got to reconnect with her. I was really actually happy to read in her obituary that she was able to take part in Jonathan's live Texas event in 2023.
That's right.
And she and her daughter won. And I thought, oh, it's nice. She still got it. And I have to say, it's too bad there was no internet back then, because she really was the Michael Jordan of speed puzzling. I mean, Michael Jordan's famous for being 6-0 in NBA championships. Jo Ellen was 6-0 in U.S. national championships. She never lost, and 3 times as a solo and 3 times as a pair. And I mean, that's just incredible. I mean, Alejandro won 2 consecutive world. That might never be broken. I don't know. There's so many good world puzzlers. And so far we've had 3 U.S. national championships in this century, and they've gone to 3 different people. Who knows? I'm just sad that today's puzzlers won't get a chance to get to know her. And if any of her relatives are listening, I would love to meet them sometime at nationals. I hope maybe the daughter that she puzzled with might come to nationals sometime. Just know there's a lot of people who knew your mom more better than I did, like Larry and Mike and Mary, and people who saw her every year, who'd probably love to meet you as well. And I have to say, I discovered after she died that she had an Instagram page. And that's the first time that I kind of regretted that I didn't get on Instagram. Well, I'm not yet, but probably would have been able to connect with her again if I'd been on her. So I am regretting that.
So you ended up in Sports Illustrated.
I was quoted in it, but
you were quoted in Sports Illustrated. Did you ever imagine that you would end up in Sports Illustrated?
No. I'm the most sport active athletic of my family because I played soccer.
Uh-huh.
But that's about it. No, I never. In fact, I have this running kind of jokeful argument with Val Coit of USAJPA as to whether or not this activity is a sport or not. And I guess if Sports Illustrated sends somebody and writes an article about it, I guess you have to consider it a sport. So.
Well, and ESPN did a thing last year.
Yeah, ESPN Ocho, I heard, had a speed tournament on there.
Mm-hmm. Were you excited to be in Sports Illustrated?
Very much so, because I had a subscription. So it came out in the October 31st, 1983 issue. Yeah, I still have a photocopy of the article. And they took a picture of Jo Ellen doing a puzzle from underneath a glass table. So it's very artful.
You did well at that competition. I should say that much like the semifinals, the finals, they stopped after the first 3 people, right? They stopped time and then counted pieces.
I don't recall. Oh, in 1983, it says after the top 3 finisher places were determined by completed piece counts. Mm-hmm. But I know from stats, by the way, a big shout out to Mike Helen in Minnesota. He's the one who kept these stats over the years, and he even had a website for a while. And it's from him that you and I have got this data at all. So thank you, Mike, for going the extra mile. And I know he's put some thanks on these to a few other people.
So you did well. You were doing a thing that is a thing you love and are good at and are confident at, you never did it again.
Yeah, well, fate stepped in. The following year, I couldn't do it because I was in Europe. I spent my junior year in Munich, Germany, and there's no way I could do that. However, I asked myself, why didn't I go back in 1985? I was graduated and I was actually back in Chicago in 1985. In this day and age, this might be hard to forget, but in the days before the internet, I think it's because I forgot about it. Because there was like no press about it. And it's like, it was just something had happened and it did nothing to remind me of it. And I think that's the only reason. And I'm kicking myself now because I probably could have won some more money maybe, or maybe I could have, slowly sank down in the standings over the years. But I definitely would have gone the next year if I hadn't gone to Europe. So, and I might have gone every year, but it's just the way things happen. Life got in the way.
And as you said, prior to the internet, information doesn't run into you as often as it does these days. So if you're not looking for it, you may not find that there are competitions still going on.
Right. Like even apparently it took a couple years off in 88 and 89, and the last one was 1990. And I don't know if that's because Hallmark sold it or the person organizing the event left. I don't know what happened there, but yeah, it was out of sight, out of mind, I guess. If I had any friends, any local people who'd done it with me, then at least they would have had some, hey, you want to go ahead it again? But I guess I was at that point when I was trying to think getting a job, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? 23, 24.
So then we enter what I call the jigsaw winter, which as far as I know is a long period of time where there aren't any more competitions. So there was this brief shining moment of a handful of years where there was competitive jigsaw. And then it, by and large, seems to have taken shelter for quite a long time until, as near as I can tell, Winter Carnival, Duluth Derby sort of era, when they start up, seems to be the sort of resurgence of competitive jigsaw puzzling at any kind of scale. I imagine there were probably competitions at, small competitions from time to time.
Yeah, well, I could tell you between 1983 and 2016, I did exactly one speed puzzling event, and it was a one-off charity thing, and it was in Portland, Oregon in 1987. I had moved back there for a year after spending a year in Chicago after graduating. And wouldn't you know it, I ran into Shelley Shelton Melton, the so-called puzzle queen, and a woman with this newsletter was living in Portland then. And I don't remember how I ran into her, but she told me about this event. It was at Jansen Beach. There's a mall there or something.
Yep.
And she said, would you like to pair up? And I said, sure. Yeah, that's great. And so we went in thinking, we've been in an actual tournament.
Yeah.
She was also a competitor, but she wasn't as fast. But she was all about the press and the coverage and everything. And in fact, I went over this a little, or I elided this earlier, but in this newsletter in 1983, she says she hooked up with Hallmark and was like the official face of the event. And she went on an 8-city tour of the U.S. promoting this. July through August, Chicago, Houston, Dallas, LA, San Francisco, Portland, Atlanta, New York City, ending in Athens, Ohio. So she was like an official, like she was the puzzle queen. And so there was that going on, but you had to look for it, like you said. But we won that tournament in Portland, and I think we won a gift certificate or something, and that was it.
Not several $100s to that time.
No, and I don't even remember what the charity was.
Feels very different now, in so much as that in the 80s it was sort of run by Hallmark for a number of years, and then I think American Publishing or something like that. And it was, as you said, very sort of corporate. It was like there was money, there was real effort putting into it, and now it's much more nonprofits are running the competitions. It feels like a very different kind of era. Do you even remember enough to know whether or not the feel of the competitions in the 80s were different from now?
Well, like I said, with the drama of the parachuting and I'll never forget in the documentary Wicker Kittens, which sort of helped get me re-excited when I discovered that, because it was about, the St. Paul Winter Carnival tournament. And it's like, oh, here's a movie about speed puzzling. This is cool. And the first time I saw that, the highlight for me was when Mike Helen holds up his yellow finalist T-shirt from 1983, and I thought, oh, I remember those. Mine wore out in like 6 months. I used to have one of those too, but and I would have had several, hopefully, if I had gone back, but I never did.
In this interim era, in the Jigsaw winter, were you still doing jigsaw puzzles? Were you still interested in jigsaw puzzles?
I still did them. I think when I went to college, I probably didn't do them except when I was home, because I'd still get them for Christmas and birthday presents. And I think, over the years with the boxes getting destroyed from where eventually they end up being thrown out. I think I only have about 3 or 4 puzzles with me now still that I retained from childhood, that the boxes are still. And a couple of them my parents held on to, and I just brought back a couple years ago. But I grew up doing mostly landscapes and fine art puzzles, which is more of a European thing now. A lot of Americans most American speed puzzles I know hate landscapes. And fine art is not always the best for speed puzzling. It can be, but the things I did growing up mostly were Springbok, Ravensburger, and Milton Bradley, Big Ben.
So 2016, a mutual friend who knows that you're a puzzler, apparently, and knows Tammy McLeod, introduces you together, says she's getting a band together. Sounds like that would be a thing that was right up your alley. Is that the kind of thing that got you thinking about practicing or otherwise preparing?
Yes, very much reignited. I don't remember if I saw Wicker Kittens before I met her or if she told me about it, but Wicker Kittens, the film, figures mightily in 2020 and beyond in USAJPA founding. Yeah, so this was a puzzle at Dave and Buster's side room in Orange County, and she had a friend from work, and there was another friend of mine from the National Puzzlers League, the other word puzzle organization. And we actually used my old puzzle Rush Hour from the tournament in 83 to practice with, because we didn't know what kind of make the puzzle would be. And this is pretty cool because we went down there on a Saturday, I think, and they gave us 3 puzzles to do back to back to back. And it was a little strange because they were all at one end of the room and the tables. And thankfully, they said, if you got there early, would you like to cover your table with white paper? And I said, yeah. Because that give us a nice, straight, smooth surface and a beautiful white surface to do it on. Because, the surface of the tables was a little bit rough. And so the paper made it nice and smooth so you could slide pieces easily. They made people send a runner to get puzzle number 1 from them, which means the people in the back of the room had farther to go. It's that doesn't seem fair.
So did you get a table up front?
We got a table pretty close to front. Mm-hmm. And so we had 3 different puzzles. The first was a Dowdle 100-piece puzzle with a little palette warmer cleanser. And after the first puzzle, we were a minute ahead. And the second puzzle was a 1,000-piece Something's Amiss puzzle twist puzzle.
That is a big jump of piece count.
Yes. And it was the first time I'd ever done a puzzle twist. So the cover is a little bit different. And this was not too bad because it was fish again. It was illustrated fish. Mm-hmm. And the only difference was the same fish were in the picture. They had just swum to different parts of the box. So we were 45 minutes ahead at the end of the second puzzle.
Wow.
Because we really plowed through the 1,000-piece. And the third puzzle was a 500-piece Springbok puzzle. Well, flowers, red and green, red, white, and purple flowers. And so we won going away by like 55 minutes or something. And I remember Tammy had noticed that like fully a third of the picture was blue purple flowers. And she noticed that she could orient all the pieces the right direction because you can see which way the flower is growing and this where the stem is. And so she oriented all of those in the right direction. So little things like that make it so much easier for everybody else. So that was fun because, we got paid cash. We got $750.
I am entering the wrong competitions.
$175 each. I thought, wow, that's like more than a third of what I earned way back in 83 for finishing third. But that ended up, we were hoping to do it again the following year, but they never did it again. I don't even remember who put that on.
Did you guys figure out anything during that first puzzle practice?
Well, I got to know Tammy a little, and she was telling me a lot about her hopes and dreams, and she had already preconceived the USAJPA in her mind because she already knew about a world, or she knew of or hoped there was a world tournament, and I guess there hadn't been one in 2019 yet, but she knew about the Belgian 24-hour event.
Mm-hmm.
And I said that I'm not doing a 24-hour marathon, but I thought that's cool to have a U.S. thing and start another national championship. So the wheels were already spinning way back before 2016 with her, and that's why, in my mind at least, I mean, I wasn't around Allie and Val and Jonathan and Faith as early as that, but that she's as much responsible as anybody in this country for the resurgence and the start of that organization. I mean, she'd already dreamed it before it became reality. Just didn't have the other pieces, other people. A few years later, she gave me a call and said, "Hey, you want to be on this team for St. Paul?" That was the beginning of the current phase of my and everybody else's puzzle life. In 2020 St. Paul, we planned to go to that one. She had met some people in San Diego at Pacific Puzzler events at a pub, Ali Krasny and Lindsay Steenstra. And she invited them and me, and we became a team, and we practiced in November, I think, of 2019 for St. Paul 2020. And she brought all these puzzles that had been used in previous St. Paul events, and she brought the times, and we beat all the times. And I thought, we should win this. When we went, I was convinced we were going to win because I had proof. We had beaten the previous winning times. And what was so cool is the night before our first, and this was the first live tournament for both Allie and apart from the pub events,
Mm-hmm.
A meaningful thing with a prize with a lot of people done live in a big space for Allie and Lindsay, I believe. And the night before our event, we watched Wicker Kittens, which Tammy and I had seen before, and Allie and Lindsay had not. And the next morning, we got to meet a lot of the people in that movie. So that was cool.
So this was January of 2020.
Yes.
January is historically when the Winter Carnival is.
Fatefully, 2 months before COVID hit this country.
Yeah, I was going to say, the doors close on puzzling for a while after this.
Yeah, so we go to St. Paul, and we win by a mere 16 seconds.
16 seconds. So that, I have to imagine, was much closer than you expected.
Yeah, we didn't know until later how close it was, but we also weren't used to doing puzzles on these big round tables with like little knots in them.
Right.
And I got there a day early because I wanted to get used to the time change because I'm a little older and I'm coming in from the West Coast. The day before, I went into the Landmark Center just to take a look at the venue. That's where they used to have it. And the first table I see is in the corner in the less than light and a little near the door where it's cold. And I said, "Oh, you better not get that table." Guess which table we got? It was a random draw. And we got that table.
This is before the cattle call that they do these days?
They had done a cattle call in previous years. That particular year, for whatever reason, they did a random draw. Just pick a number, and this is your assigned table. I think locals didn't like that, but I thought it was so ironic. The one table I said we definitely don't want is the one we got, and we ended up winning with it. So,
how did it feel to be back into a large scale competition? I guess I didn't ask how the 2016 competition. How big was that?
I think there was about 15 teams, maybe teams of 4.
So
about size. As many tables as they could get into one of these meeting rooms.
So you're back on a big stage at Winter Carnival.
Yeah. Well, the fun thing was we won and we were all excited and jazzed. And to his credit, Tony, who runs Puzzle Twist, every year that I've gone back, he remembers me. And so we were hanging around because there's different events. And so the family event was afterwards, and we were hanging around the people who were just checking in. And we're all going, "Oh, look, it's Valerie Coit. She was in the movie. It's Robin DeCare. She was in the movie. It's Leslie Mallory. She was in the movie, The Mallory Move." So, Allie and Lindsay and Tammy and I, we all stood around it, especially Allie and Tammy, because I think by that time they'd already been talking to each other about possibly organizing something. And so right there, you got Allie and Tammy and Val all talking about, wouldn't it be cool if? And I think I talked to Robin and Misty Havens, two of the other three members of the Wicker Kittens team. And to my mind, that was it. That was the beginning or the birth of USAJPA. You'll have to ask Tammy how they found Jonathan and Faith. I don't know that story, but I believe they incorporated like a few months later or something.
Yeah, May.
So that was exciting. And then just to meet people, making all these puzzle friends in Minnesota. But that was it. That was like, welcome back to this thing. It's a thing now. We've got momentum.
Is it fair to say that at that point you weren't about to miss more competitions?
No, I learned my lesson. Pay attention to what's going on, and I would ebb and flow over the next several years. But definitely, it's like some people say, finding your tribe. But it was quite wonderful to feel this starting again and to be involved.
Did you go to the first year of nationals? I imagine you must have.
Yes, I was in on the I wasn't in on the planning, but I was close. Being in Southern California, I was close to two of the founding members. I'd always planned to go. I didn't think I had the stamina to do solo and to do any of it really. So I went the first year just as a volunteer, which was kind of cool because I'd never judged before. So it was my first experience in actually watching people. And I'll never forget the highlight as a judge in the Paris finals was seeing these unknown twins from Washington State, like just cream the whole field, like 12 minutes ahead or 20 minutes ahead. The Reuter sisters made themselves known in a big way that year, 2022 in San Diego. And I was able to see it in a comparison, walking around, seeing who was maybe second. So that was very exciting just to watch people in real time puzzling and to learn tricks that you must know by now as a commentator, like counting the pieces left to try to figure out who's ahead.
You came and you did that one just as an individual, you said?
No, I didn't compete at all.
Oh, you didn't compete at all. That's right.
Yeah, I wanted to be part of it, but I guess I had to work myself back into or maybe, well, that's not all of it. I think part of it is I knew I wasn't going to finish in the top three like I did when I was in my 20s. And I think I just wanted to spare myself maybe a little bit of adjustment to just, being farther back in the pack now that I was close to 60 and not in my 20s anymore.
Did you go the following nationals?
Yes, I made sure. Well, by that time I'd already been to another live St. Paul in 2023, I think.
Did they have individuals that year? I don't think they did. No.
But I did get to do, and then I started, during COVID, of course, I started doing online stuff with USAJPA and then with Jonathan Clough in Texas, speedpuzzling.com. Fortunately, I started early at that, so I got to be a black belt sooner than a lot of people because the field was smaller.
Right.
It would take me a lot longer because there's so many people faster than me now. I guess I got lucky in being an early bird there. And I did a lot during the first year and a half of COVID, but I haven't done any online competing in quite a few years now.
Were you working on a technique or anything at that point?
Well, yeah, not as in depth as a lot of people. I still don't have a stand for my phone, so I've never actually taped myself. If I really was serious, I would get a stand. I would video myself and watch the time lapse and see what my strengths and weaknesses are beyond what I know them to be. We did have during COVID, Tammy, Lindsay, Allie, and I were Pacific puzzlers, but then we thought about expanding to go to Europe. We were planning to go in 2021, and we were going to the rules were a little different. We were going to add 2 more people to have a team of 6 with only 4 competing at one time, because I think it was an 8-hour window or something. It was different rules back then. So in preparing for 2021, we became Golden State Puzzlers and added Yvonne Foyt, who would become famous, and Kevin Strins from San Diego. So we had 3 San Diegos and 3 LAs. And we practiced a lot, and we would get on like mutual messenger phone conversations and puzzle on a Sunday and go head to head with the same puzzle. And so we traded tips and stuff. Like we'd practice flipping and sorting, see if we could. That's at the time I thought, well, okay, if I can flip and sort a 500 Ravensburger in under 4 minutes, that's a good baseline.
Mm-hmm.
I think my record is probably 3 minutes 10 or something. I know some people can get well under 3 minutes, but I don't think I can get the edges sorted as well under 3 minutes. I think my standard operating time is about 4 minutes now for that. So that's kind of one strategy that we could practice. It's easy because you can start over again easily.
Yeah, you're not committed to the whole puzzle.
How do you practice end game strategy without getting to the end? I mean, do you like keep your puzzles together and like take some pieces out? It's hard to replicate the end game without actually just getting there naturally.
Yeah.
So yeah, we did a lot of that sort of communicating from home, and but you know, it got canceled or postponed from 21 to 22, and then the rules changed, and Kevin got married right when it was going to take place, so he said I can't go, and then I bowed out, and so Yvonne basically took my place with Pacific Puzzlers to become officially Golden State Puzzlers.
But you did eventually end up at Worlds.
Yes. I knew I wanted to go once, and I finally managed to go in 2024. I decided by that time that I was going to do all three events, you know, teams, pairs, and I'm not going to go all over Europe and let any event slide, because who knows if I even can advance to the next level. So yeah, one of the people I met through the nationals was a woman who lives in Northern California, Susanna Riemann,
mm-hmm.
and she agreed to partner with me, and we paired with two women from Ohio, Jessica Henderson and Colleen Dunn. And so we became a team called Falling Into Place. We never actually got to practice together till we got to Spain. We did 2000s back to back on one night. That was our one practice. But I really enjoyed it. It was a very fun experience. I know it's getting really big and it's kind of outgrowing the Millennium Dome. If not numbers, weather-wise from this year, I guess.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I think if it moved to an English or German-speaking country, because I also speak German, I might go again. But it was a really wonderful experience. And so I made it out of the first round. I made it to the semi-final rounds of solos and pairs, but not to the final, which didn't really surprise me because, you know, I was in my early 60s then, and people in their teens and 20s, there's hundreds of them from countries all over the world that are faster than me.
Do you find that there are things that you notice you are less able to do as you mature?
Yeah, I've never been great at busy puzzles, but as my eyesight, I wear bifocals now, is not as acute as it was when I was younger. They get even harder because it really requires the ability to see really small details on a piece and often match it to the box.
Yeah.
And, you know, growing up as a lot of us did, thinking that looking at the box was cheating, that's really a hindrance in speed puzzling. You really need to look at the box in speed puzzling. And so that's been part of my training, is to not be afraid to look at the box. In fact, a good thing to practice is to spend a few devoted minutes or seconds looking at parts of the box and trying to memorizing what goes where. I think that's something I'm still not very good at.
It sounds like when you were a kid, though, you were able to see a puzzle piece and remember where in the picture that goes. Is that a different skill, or is that still a memorization skill?
I don't know. I think it's more like it's concentration, you know, the game concentration.
Mm-hmm.
You ask for this thing to be shown and you see it, and then like 5 minutes later, you remember where that particular one was. That's more of the skill I'm talking about. I often do have a hard time matching what the piece in front of me to the box, especially if it's a very small thing. And during an actual event, if I go a few seconds and I can't find it, I'll say, I'll skip it, come back to it. I'm not going to waste 10, 15 seconds looking over the whole box trying to find where that one piece goes. If it doesn't come in the first few seconds, I'll move on.
What about hand speed? Has that changed substantially?
I think so. I think also I tend to sit a lot more. I think I stood when I was 21 in Ohio. I think I stood almost the entire time, and I don't know how high the tables were, but my back hurt. I mean, I stand to start my sort, but I'll even start sitting down during my sort nowadays. My back can't handle the strain, the angle. It's sort of semi hunched over. If the table, I know that right now, Connor in Texas, who's still only about 13, 12 years old, he can just stand at the table and everything's right in front of his view space.
Right.
As he gets older and taller, I wonder, he's going to have to deal with the changing viewpoint he has to the pieces. And I know that like Allie and Lindsay, who are both pretty tall volleyball players, probably still. I think I've seen them. Maybe Allie puts like one foot up on a chair or something. I haven't tried that. I should try that. I'm sure there's many, many tactics I could learn to improve. I just haven't like knuckled down and gotten down to it.
Do you think at some point you're going to become serious about this whole thing?
Well, I was 66th in the U.S. in 2024, and I dropped to 111th this year. So yeah, if I want to break 100, I probably need to do some work to try to improve on some areas that I can improve on, to cut a few minutes down. I did get lucky in the semifinal this year in nationals because a puzzle that played hard for most of the room played to my strength.
Which one was that?
I had the very first semifinal puzzle in Washington. It was the Washington Capitol, and the border was all lotus flowers or whatever, the cherry blossoms.
Flowers. No, I had that one too.
Yeah. It's the first time I ever, probably in competition, didn't do the edge first. I separated it and I knew it was going last. And I came in 11th in the semifinal, which was actually a slower time finishing 11th than my final in the final where I finished 111th. My time was actually faster in the final, but that puzzle played so much harder for so many other people. And I thought, oh my God, a photo. Yeah, let's go. And, the hardest part of it was the edge. That was by far the hardest part. So, I didn't really struggle with much other than the fountain. I do remember though, the dark tree on the left. I thought, I bet you people are going to freak about this, but I love it because I did a mini shape sort. I didn't, first of all, easy to get all those pieces together because they're all dark green. And then I only sorted the ones that had the, I don't even know what the terminology for these things are now. Like innards on like 3 o'clock and 6 o'clock so that you have like a big squarish corner. So there's two types of pieces that have those kind of corners. I just got those together. And that mini shape sort made it so much easier to go through that tree pretty quickly. That was the one bit of strategy mid game I knew I used. But even I saw in the replays, I saw that Alice Rowe, who won that semifinal, went back and forth between doing the tree and doing the edge. I don't think she did the tree all in one go, but she finished much faster, of course, than me.
I do love that you seem to continue to look for new ways of improving what you're doing. Like one of the communications you and I had back and forth, you were teasing me about a conversation that you were having around improving the flip and sort component of things. You never did tell me what you guys actually learned, but you were having a conversation about that. I was like, well, he's continuing to learn and find out new things.
Well, yeah, at St. Paul this year, there was about 8 of us that weren't leaving right away. And so we were hanging around the hotel lobby and talking about, and we did some practice flipping swords. And one was insisting that, if you could just separate the ones that flip over from the ones that are upside down and then slide something under the upside down ones and flip them all over at once, you could save a lot of time. And we all thought, well, in theory, that sounds cool, but in practice, it's really hard to do. First of all, it's just hard to separate those two segments.
Time consuming.
And you might as well just flip them over. And so we did some practice. And I just thought, well, the nice thing about sorting edges at the beginning is you can tell what they are when they're upside down. It's the only thing, the advantage of that, them being upside down. It's actually easier to see an edge sometimes when it's upside down. So before we run out of time, I do want to just mention my team from this year because I had such a lot of fun with them. They're all local Southern Californians. Yuen Chan, Elizabeth Tashiro, and Daria Lalian, and I were Los Ravens Burritos. And we all pitched in on the name. And I think Yuen is the one who came up with the big foil wrappers that we came in.
I love that. You guys were standouts in that you were all dressed up as burritos with the foil wrapping on the outside.
Yeah, well, I think it was Elizabeth had thought maybe doing a pun on Ravensburger, like some other kind of food. And it was Daria's husband who actually did the artwork of the various different burritos characters that we had. And so, yeah, it was a team effort. And it was just a lot of fun puzzling with them. Elizabeth and Daria paired up to go to Europe this year, and they teamed up also with two people from Ohio. And you actually had them on after they finished. Mm-hmm. And right after them, a team from Mexico. I was really gratified that some of the later finishers got to share the limelight a little bit with the Q&A there.
Yeah, all credit to, I think that was probably Jim, but the people, Jim and Michelle, who are hosting, especially during that kind of middle section, intentionally focused on other teams and players who were sort of not right at the beginning, not right at the top, to give other people some exposure. They were like, well, other folks are going to get plenty of exposure. Let's sort of dig in and talk to some other folks. So that was an intentional decision, which I 100% appreciated.
Also, if you don't mind, just before you run out of time, I think I've been name checked 5 or 6 times by previous guests on your show.
You have. As a matter of fact, I was just scanning through the transcripts, and I found at least 4 instances by 4 different guests of talking about you.
So I wanted to mention a few other people. I got to know EB. I met her here at a party, I think Yvonne's birthday party, and she and I were at the same table in the finals in 2024. I knew she would finish ahead of me, but it's super nice to get to know her, and I'm glad that she's your very knowledgeable co-host for the World Lead Up and Follow Up. And my first experience with puzzle chess was in San Diego at a meetup, and when I got into the room, they said, "How good are you?" And I said, "I'm probably pretty good." And they said, "Okay, you're going to play Min." So Min Dang, Min Yi Dang was there, and so we played 4 rounds of puzzle chess for the first time. And it's been really gratifying to see her improve tremendously since she started. And also, Kim Kenny is one of the people who lives near me and was also in Ohio back in the 80s. And she and I paired up last winter in St. Paul, because they started a senior division for the first time this past January, and they're doing it again next January. And we won the pairs, and as such, we got knighted by the king and queen of the Winter Carnival, which is just totally unexpected.
Yeah, I have a note here that I said something about you getting knighted. I didn't realize that was because of the performance that you guys did at...
Because we won the first senior division pairs at St. Paul Winter Carnival.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we finished right ahead of Lisa Schuler and Leslie Mallory, I think.
Icons.
Yeah, yes. Oh, it's so great getting to know them and all the people in Minnesota. And I also want to say that Susanna has been really gracious and invited me to join her team as a fill-in at last year's state tournament in Redwood City, one of Jonathan's live California events, in which I got to puzzle with her, Doug Elwanger, and Linnea Shia. Don't know how to pronounce her name, last name. And we finished second, amazingly, not very far behind the team with Becca Taylor and Andrew Peng on it. So
wow.
that was a lot of fun. There's a lot of events, and it's fun to take place in the live events. That's kind of what my jam is, just the live events, if I can afford to get to them.
Now, you've puzzled with a lot of different people in the modern era, and you've also said that the community is one of the things that you love about jigsaw puzzling. It really does feel like you've sort of immersed yourself in a group of like-minded people, kind people, people who are enthusiastic, smart. Does it feel like your community?
Absolutely. I just echo what everybody else keeps saying about how supportive and wonderful everybody is. There's some joking gamesmanship, but there's no real like gamesmanship or trash talking of the kind you'd find in basketball or something. I mean, it's always done with kindness, and at least as far as I've experienced. Um, and two other people who are both local to Southern California that I got to mention. Obviously, everybody knows about Karen Puzzles, but she's at so many events here, and I actually got to pair with her in a pub event once. That was interesting only because there was only two other teams, and one of them had a baby on it, so it was like not really much of a contest. And then I don't know, have you met Alyssa Zackler?
Mm-hmm.
She's done so much. She runs 2 or 3 times a year a puzzle swap in Santa Clarita, and she has hosted Jonathan's last 2 live one-day simul events in Southern California. She also hosted an event at a library where a bunch of us got together to put a 5,000 piece puzzle together. So,
oh, cool.
She's very active in the community and just a wonderful person to know. I know there's a great community in Northern California that I've met some of the people, but we have a great one here in Southern California as well.
Yeah, California's got a great, thriving puzzling community. So, look into your crystal ball. I'm curious about 2 different things future related. One is you've seen jigsaw puzzling from the 80s. You've seen it through the modern era. Any idea where it could go from here?
Well, what usually happens when things get too big is, you have to think about space and organization and money. Thankfully, the money involved, the winnings is so low that it doesn't really warrant anybody doing anything nefarious. So hopefully everything stays on the up and up and bright and cooperative, and it's mostly for the spirit and the camaraderie. I'm not really an organizer when it comes to big events like this, so I don't know what the future of both the world event. I mean, the people who run USAJPA are doing it on their own time, on their own dime and time.
Whole other job.
Eventually, I mean, I know already 2 people, the founding members, have left, and there'll probably be some more turnover, and it'd be great as long as it keeps going. But the event in Ohio had a 8 to 9 year run. I don't know. People get older, and I think there's much more groundswell, and there's even more people that continue to find out that this is a thing that they never knew. I think maybe, more coverage, more television might help. I don't know if it's going to be to the fact where you actually have to win a regional to even qualify for nationals. That would change it a bit. But I think most people, realize that they're not in the top echelon, and they go for the camaraderie in the community, and all the other events that they're going to have at next year's Atlanta. The whole convention part of it is the main reason people will spend the time and money to go, I think. And, it's like summer camp for adults and seeing old friends. And you want to do that as much as you can.
Are you going to, I guess, St. Paul coming up and then nationals in Atlanta, I assume?
I'm planning to do both. Yeah. In fact, I did talk Mary Carty into going to St. Paul. So we're having an all over 60s team in January. We're going to be called the Athenians because of Athens, Ohio, but also maybe because we're the old wise ones. I don't know. But Mike Helland and Kim Kenny and Mary and I will be a team. And yeah, definitely going to Atlanta.
So let's do the speed round. I'm just going to read off some things. Give me your fastest response. Gradients, patterns, or fur?
Gradients.
Illustration or photo?
Photo.
Busy or landscape?
Landscape.
Round or square?
Square.
Wood or cardboard?
Cardboard.
Individuals, pairs, or teams?
Teams.
Ribbon cut or random cut?
Random cut.
300, 500, or 1,000?
500.
Virtual or in person?
In person.
Do you have a current favorite brand?
Well, my all-time favorite brand are what I call classic or vintage Springboks. But of the current crop that's available now in stores, I would just say Ravensburger because they're consistently high quality. And I can get plenty of landscapes that the other people don't have to do from them. And I can still like it. So, yeah, they're they've been with me my whole life, and their quality hasn't changed. It's so wonderful, like 50 plus years.
Do you have a favorite puzzle?
Well, I mentioned already the 2001 one, which I don't have anymore. Mike Helen had it. I was able to do it at his house. I used to have one when I was a kid. It was 1,000 pieces. I think I was 5 years old when I first did it. And it had a border that was 2.5 to 3 pieces wide all the way around. And it was a strange photo of something in Africa, a strange woman with like a beekeeper's bonnet on or something. I just remember doing it. I remember the border, and I remember it was a photo, and it was kind of blown up, but I just have memories of doing that one over and over and over again. And the idea of looking back at a 5-year-old doing 1,000-piece puzzle seems kind of ridiculous, but of course today, it's not that much of a big deal. But yeah, it would be fun. Well, I can say I saw Karen had an episode where she was selling a whole bunch of vintage puzzles, and one of them was a Ravensburger from the 70s of Venice. And I thought, oh, I had that puzzle. It's when the picture on the box went all the way out to the edge instead of having a border on the box. And I did that one a lot. In fact, I probably practiced on that one before going to nationals.
The first nationals?
Yeah, in 83, yeah.
What is something you do when competing you feel extra good about?
Well, EB can tell you that I support my table mate. I think I was rooting her on because I knew she was going to finish before me. I do try. I mean, one of my goals in any tournament is try to beat my table mate, like in Europe. I was able to do that in Europe during solos, but in pairs, Suzanne and I got beaten both times. But in competitions, so I like to volunteer when I have the time to judge.
Volunteering can be a lot of fun. I've done it a few times and I enjoyed it every time.
I made sure to judge the World Finals in 2024 because I had an up-close view of the best puzzlers in the world for the time that took them to finish 500 pieces.
Is there somewhere that people can follow you? It sounds like Instagram's a no-go. There are other options?
I may get on at some point, but I'm on Facebook if you want to look me up, but I don't really post much. There's not much that I do that is followable, I guess. I tend to follow other people or just get involved in live events. So if you see me in St. Paul or at Atlanta, or, come and say hi.
Andrew Bradburn, thank you for sharing a little bit of history with me.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks for listening to Peace Talks. You can follow the podcast on Instagram at peace_talks, and you can send email to peacetalkscast@gmail.com.